Hello and welcome back to another edition to the With the Director Films videos, something or other. So I've already gone through all the mindless show for the rest of it, and I've gone through Don't Starve and The Adventure. Now I'm going to take a look through Queer, which has a double meaning to it. Obviously for the first part of it being queer meaning gay or homosexual or whatever, and also meaning odd, not to be construed as a homophobic slang. Anyway, God, how did I even come up with the idea for this? So Zach Martin, who plays he or him, there's two guys in it, me and him. It's filmed at my place, so it was kind of like, you can't really just have him be like living in his house when it's pretty evident through the picture frames and stuff that it's not his place. So hence came up with the idea that like him and I kind of had some kind of relations, and he was just there because I'd been with him, but I had to go to uni, which is explained. It's pretty clear in the film as to what the hell happens narrative wise, except for the ending. So Zach wanted to be in a film because he was very big into getting into acting then, and I really wanted to make a film with him, and I couldn't think of anything, and so I just the first thing that came to mind was the word lol. I looked it up, and if you spell it LOLL, it stands for standing or sitting in a strange manner or very straight particular manner. It doesn't matter. And originally, the first shot that came to mind was him drinking from a cup of coffee or something, standing with the window in front of him or whatever, and it'll be a silent angle. And that was the first thing that came to mind. And then it just kind of developed from there. And of course, I made Queer. Of course, I'm taking a look at the film here. So this was another thing what I did with like How We've Don't Starve. I had all the audio coming from the camera and nothing else, which is kind of annoying, but also it depends. I like to stay as still as possible. Like, you can kind of see the camera shaking a little because I'm obviously a bit nervous trying to make sure that everything's done perfectly or whatever. And yeah, the only thing I wanted to make sure that kept happening throughout the film was we never showed what the time was. So yeah, drinks the coffee, doesn't like it, pretty obviously it's the coffee, and yeah, like, it's pretty obvious in the film that, like, he doesn't live here. I don't really think there's actually much to talk about in it, because when I think about it, there was no struggle in terms of actually making it. There were a whole bunch of... All I really wanted to do was just make a whole bunch of different shots and scenes that didn't really make any sense together. But of course, I did them anyway, so I was doing experiments with this camera, and I just came up with different ideas, and I ended up making this, and it was pretty... I mean, it's pretty obvious what's happening here. You got a guy, me, who has had probably sex with this other character, and the guy stayed the night, and my character has gone to university, gone to school, but then found out on the way to the train that the class had been cancelled, so he's come all the way back, and this other character is exploring the whole entire house, and starts having these weird visions and premonitions and stuff. Very Lynch-esque. Like, I was very big in my Lynch phase there, for watching films, and it just turns into this kind of clusterfuck of weird shit, like of all the weird change of colours and the strange fades and whatever. This part I really liked, where he just sits there and is just laughing, and then just pours coffee. He just pours coffee all over himself. See, that's how I messed up. Yeah, that's what the idea was. Pause there for a second. He did actually pour coffee. Like, we made a whole cup of instant coffee, and he poured it all over himself. but it wasn't a very thick like brown coffee or black coffee, so you couldn't really see it. It just looked like water that he was pouring on himself. That was actual coffee. It was pretty warm. I think it wasn't too hot because we'd sitting there for a while. We did that all in one take because it's like you kind of have to. He's pouring coffee on himself. He only has the one shirt. You know, we don't have a budget. This second scene was another thing that popped in my mind where he's walking down just a back driveway or whatever, and putting on a business shirt, whatever. He's just getting himself ready as if the night's been pretty shit. So it's like he's seeing all these different visions where the world can be completely different. And yeah, the crew and everything, it's all very particular in how it's designed. This scene in particular, with him looking into the drain, it's meant to kind of have this vibe that originally when I wrote it, I was like, that could kind of be construed as, like, interpreted as kind of, like, homophobic. Like, it's putting down, like, you know, gay people and whatever, because, like, they're just kind of, like, you know, like, I've just been used and whatever. Like, again, it doesn't exactly have to be to do with sexuality. It could just be the fact that, like, a one-night stand, which makes more sense for the image. And, like, they just look down the drain and it's like, this is where I live, this is where I belong. But then I changed it where I'm like, no, I want, in particular, Zach, I want his character to kind of, like, look up and look at the world and kind of embrace it and be like, I can, you know, I don't have to live in the shadows or whatever anymore. This is kind of, especially politically, of the environment of the time in Australia, you had the gay marriage rights thing happening. So timeliness was pretty, I guess, key, not exactly into making it, but just kind of wove into the intertextuality of the film. And that was really all I did with that part. It, like, again, these are just scenes where he's just doing stuff, and then randomly, yeah, it just jumps back to him drinking his coffee. Turns out the cup's actually empty, and also he's wearing this shirt. So, like, it's not just this idea that, like, he's just coming up with these, like, delusions just by looking out the window, but in fact that there's some kind of reality to all of this. So, of course, this is post him having gone out there, so it's as if all this stuff has just happened, but he can't recall it. It just looks really strange, and it's all just a bizarre turn of events. And then that whole dark scene where he's looking through, filling up the walls and whatever, trying to figure out where the hell he is, that was all actually done in the dark, but I had to cut it all to black because, of course, you could still see through the lights, through the blinds.
Yeah, like, I'm just gonna go on a ride, so if be around.
So yeah, I had to cut that all in black because it was still blind, so you could still see sunlight coming through, so it wasn't completely pitch black like I wanted it to be. And so now he's randomly in a bathroom, and it's just like, what the hell's going on? And it's pretty obvious that, like, it's just a whole bunch of kind of nonsense combining together into this film. And of course, then you got the bloodied shirt. It's meant to be blood, of course, it's tomato sauce. Again, budget. And this part in particular was more interesting because the idea was more surreal where, of course, I jump into his back, which I like some of how I did it, perfectly going into his back and whatever, and between each cut, something would change. You know, you'd have the sauce in his back, you'd have the sauce in his hands, and you'd realise, like, maybe I've killed someone, maybe I'm bleeding, then my character arrives home, and, of course, Zach's character puts, you know, you got all this stuff where he puts his hands to the glass and there's no blood there, it's just all this psychological kind of delusion, and yeah, my character gets home, not much happens. Like, my character is like, okay, so he's used the coffee machine, he's read the note, he's kind of just disappeared, but then he realizes that, of course, the bathroom light's still on, and he goes in there, and boom, Zach's character has vanished. And all my lines of dialogue was improvised, because just to get the idea there to what was going on. Yeah, and he just goes in the bathroom, and Zach's character is gone, and all that's left is this kind of time-lapse shot of this handprint in blood appearing. That was really tricky to make because that was the hardest part of the film to do, because I had to get Zach, obviously, with the hand covered in tomato sauce. The camera was in the room by him, with Zach by himself. I was out of the room. I had to wait for Zach to shoot it all. The idea was that you'd have it on the angle as presented, and Zach would go, he would wait a few seconds, go over, press his hand, go back, wait a few seconds or whatever, and then that would be it. And then it would just kind of cut over time and time lapse into itself, so you get this kind of light effect that, like, yeah. So yeah, in terms of getting the idea and the inspiration, kind of David Lynch was the inspiration in his films. But yeah, it was just a culmination of having experimented with this camera and with some editing techniques, and I just chucked some stuff together, wrote some parts onto a small script, and again, it's like what is it? It's a 6-minute long film, and I gave it to Zach, and he's like, "All right, yeah, let's film this." So he came over, we filmed it, and that was that. Yeah, I still like how it was done. It was all just an experiment, but at the same time, it was also like had this kind of social political commentary in it about the whole sexuality and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's a film I like because it's very interpretive. It's not my best film. It's not my worst film. But yeah, I just like that kind of experimental stuff where you can have all these scenes that kind of don't really correlate, but at the same time you get enough of an idea. And yeah, so yeah. Thanks for watching, I guess. If you like this video, feel free to like, share, subscribe, whatever. You can watch the original Queer somewhere, and the playlist for maybe playlists for films and playlists for this show, and subscribe. Yeah. I've got one more of these to do. If you guys want me to look at all of the short films, including all of those really weird films I did, then I guess I can do that. Extra footage and extra content and whatever, and just get an idea of what I was thinking of when I was making and whatever. But I've only got one more film that I actually want to talk about in that case, like that I really want to look at, and that's quite a big one because it's my Year 12 my Year 12 media assignment, and yeah. So yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.